My name is Alexander Hawthorne. Everyone just calls me Alex. I'm 35 years old, born and raised in Los Angeles in what people like to call a quiet dynasty family. The phrase sounds mysterious, but it really just means we're extremely wealthy without ever flaunting it. The Hawthorne family has been billionaire level for 3 generations, with an empire that spans real estate, finance, and technology. Our fortune is so vast that even a minor move can shake the California stock market. I remember once when my father simply decided to pull capital from an investment fund. The stocks of several related companies plummeted, and the press went wild for a week. Yet the Hawthornes never appear in the headlines. We prefer silence, like a shadowy power that quietly controls everything from behind the scenes. That's how we survive. Rich, but never showy. My father, Harvey Hawthorne, is 62 and the chairman of Hawthorne Dynasty, the holding company that oversees the entire empire. He is a calm, commanding man whose mere glance can silence a room full of business partners. He hates ostentation. I've never seen him wear an expensive watch or drive a flashy car to the office. Instead, he dresses in simple shirts, drives an old Toyota, and spends his free time reading history books. Real power doesn't need noise, he always says. I admire him deeply, not just for building the empire, but for keeping it steady through every crisis. My mother, Juniper Hawthorne, is 4 years younger than Dad. She is a generous philanthropist, but extraordinarily private. She avoids the media and high society parties. Instead, she quietly donates to orphanages, hospitals, and environmental causes. Her presence is gentle, kind, and soothing, like a cool breeze in the harsh LA sun. She always wears a warm smile, and I still remember the evening she sat by my bed telling stories, her voice soft and lulling. She is the heart of our family, the one who keeps everything balanced. From childhood, I grew up surrounded by luxury. I attended the top private schools where annual tuition could buy a small house. I had private tutors for everything, math, art, you name it, and traveled with a personal driver and discreet security detail. Bodyguards were always nearby but trained to blend into the crowd, so I never felt watched. Everything best in the world was handed to me. Books, courses, travel across the globe. I once flew to Italy just to learn Italian cooking, or to Japan to study martial arts. Life felt like a dream, yet sometimes that perfection left me strangely lonely. It was almost too flawless to feel real. Despite the glamorous exterior of our family, my parents raised me with discipline, kindness, humility, and self-reliance. They never wanted me to become a spoiled, reckless heir who burned through money. Dad often dragged me into the kitchen to wash dishes and clean the house, saying, "You have to know the value of hard work no matter how rich you are." Mom taught me generosity, taking me to charity centers to help underprivileged children. They wanted me to understand that money is just a tool, not the essence of a person. So even though I was born with a silver spoon, I never acted entitled. I quietly carried my father's words in my heart. Wealth is a privilege, but kindness is a choice. Those words became my compass. I learned to listen, to help others without expecting anything in return. At school, I never bragged about cars or mansions. I was just Alex, the friendly guy who loved basketball and books. That upbringing shaped me into a humble, calm adult. I don't show off, I don't waste money, and I live like an ordinary person among ordinary people. Friends thought I came from a comfortable middle-class family. No one knew the truth. I liked it that way, living without envy or flattery swirling around me. When I grew up, I refused to live in the ancestral mansions. They were too vast, too cold for me. Instead, I moved into a modest house in the LA suburbs, surrounded by regular middle-class families. It's a 2-story wooden home with a small backyard and a simple kitchen. I cook for myself, fresh salads, basic grilled meat, and clean my own place. No maids, no driver. Just me and the simple life I chose. Every morning I wake up to birds singing outside my window and feel true peace. No worries about security or paparazzi, just Alex, living like everyone else. I found work I loved in tech, starting at the very bottom of a small startup. I worked hard, stayed late, learned from colleagues, never revealing who I really was. They saw me as a frugal, kind-hearted guy from a modest background. I smiled to myself whenever they said, "Alex, you're so talented, yet you live so simply." That was the greatest reward, being judged for my skills, not my money. I stayed away from parties and extravagance. No nightclubs, no yacht parties. I drive a 10-year-old Honda Civic I bought with my own savings. Reliable, unremarkable, exactly what I wanted. I eat lunch at cheap diners where a burger costs a few bucks. No one would ever guess that my life belonged to the heir of a multi-billion-dollar empire. I loved it, blending into the crowd, observing real life. That extremely modest lifestyle made my true identity almost impossible to detect. Friends saw me as ordinary, co-workers treated me like a brother, and even anyone secretly watching, if they existed, never suspected a thing. I thought that was safe. That kindness would shield me from trouble, that simplicity would bring peace. I believed it with all my heart, until I met her, Elena Crane. It was a Saturday afternoon at the end of October, one of those rare days in Los Angeles when the sky is clear and the air carries a slight chill. I had come to a community center in the suburbs to volunteer at a workshop, teaching underprivileged kids how to use old computers my company had donated. I was dressed in a plain gray t-shirt, faded jeans, and dirty sneakers, just another ordinary volunteer. I was crouched down, connecting cables for an 8-year-old girl when I heard a bright, crystalline laugh behind me. I turned around and saw her for the first time. Elena was standing there, her long brown hair tied in a low ponytail, wearing a simple white blouse and jeans, bending down to retie a little boy's shoelaces. She smiled at him with her whole face, so gently that I froze for a few seconds. She was beautiful. Not the flashy, over-the-top kind of beauty you see in Beverly Hills girls I'd always avoided. Hers was a warm beauty, the kind that made you want to get closer, to protect her. I don't even remember how I finished setting up that computer. All I know is that when I stood up, Elena was looking at me. She smiled and gave a small, polite nod. And for the first time in my life, my heart skipped a beat. "You volunteering too?" she asked, her voice as warm as the late afternoon sun. "Yeah, I come here most weekends," I managed, trying to sound calm even though my mind was in chaos. From that moment, everything began. We started texting every day, at first just casual check-ins, then long phone calls that stretched late into the night. I told her about my simple life, my little house in the suburbs, my programming job, my early morning runs. I never mentioned the Hawthorne dynasty, the mansions, or the yachts. I wanted her to love the real me, not the name. Elena opened up too. She told me about her mother, who had passed away 4 years earlier from a long illness, and about her stepfather, Arlo, a quiet man who did some kind of freelance work she wasn't entirely clear about. She said she'd grown up modestly, nothing fancy, but always tried to live kindly. I believed her, completely. Love came fast, intense, burning, and so sweet I was afraid it wasn't real. But every time I looked into Elena's eyes, I believed. I believed this was fate, that she was the missing piece I'd been searching for all my life. 2 years passed like a dream. I proposed on an autumn evening by the small lake near our house. I got down on one knee, hands trembling as I held a simple ring. No giant diamond, just a small green stone I chose because it matched her eyes. "I can't promise you the whole world," I said, voice choking, "but I promise to give you my entire world, to love and protect you." "Will you marry me?" Elena cried. She nodded and threw her arms around me so hard I thought we'd both fall into the lake. "Yes," she whispered, "all I need is you." I thought it was the happiest moment of my life. The wedding was exactly what I wanted. Small, warm, and quiet. Only about 50 people, my parents, a few close friends, and some of Elena's and my co-workers. No press, no famous photographers, no fireworks or live band, just fresh flowers, laughter, and a long wooden table full of homemade food. Dad wore a simple gray suit and blended in like any ordinary uncle. Mom wore a cream cotton dress, no expensive jewelry, just her favorite old pearl bracelet. No bodyguards, no luxury cars. Everyone assumed they were just the groom's normal parents. On the bride's side, there was only one person, Arlo Crane, Elena's stepfather. He was about 55, thin salt and pepper hair, wearing a slightly worn black suit. He said very little, just sat in a corner sipping water. I had met him a few times before, shaken his hand, made small talk. He left no impression beyond a faint nod and unreadable eyes. The reception was full of laughter. I held Elena as we danced to Etta James's At Last. She rested her head on my shoulder and whispered, "I've never been this happy." "Thank you." I kissed her hair, thinking life couldn't possibly get any better. Then a friend suggested we show the wedding album. I laughed. "Give me a minute. I'll go grab it." Still buzzing from light wine and pure joy, I ran up the creaky wooden stairs. I opened the closet, rummaging for the album, grinning to myself at everyone's upcoming reactions. Suddenly, I heard the soft click of high heels on the wooden floor, light and steady. Must be Elena. A mischievous idea flashed through my mind. I quickly slid under the bed, the low, dusty space just big enough for me to lie flat on my stomach. I bit back laughter, imagining her scream when I grabbed her ankle. I lay perfectly still, holding my breath, waiting. The heels stopped at the door. It opened. Elena stepped in. I saw her white wedding heels, her slim ankles, the hem of her white dress. I was about to yell, "Surprise, my love," when another set of footsteps followed, heavier men's dress shoes. The man stepped in behind her and locked the door. I froze. They walked past me and sat on the edge of the bed, right above my head. The mattress sagged inches from my face. I didn't dare breathe. My heart began to race. Who was this? Why was he in here with my wife on our wedding night? Then they spoke. It was Elena's voice, but all warmth was gone. Cold, flat, calculated, like a completely different person. Perfect. A flawless wedding. No one suspects a thing. The man replied in a low, raspy voice I recognized instantly. Arlo Crane. You did well. The plan is right on track. Phase 1 complete. I lay there, blood turning to ice. Plan? Phase 1? Elena gave a chilling little laugh. He still thinks I actually love him. So naive it's almost sad. Arlo continued, voice low but clear. Now we speed things up. You need to gain his absolute trust. Get pregnant. Fast. Elena replied calmly. I've already prepared everything. The child will be the key, Arlo said slowly, savoring each word. Only with a child will you be legally tied to the Hawthorne family. When he dies, the child becomes the legitimate heir, and you, as the mother, control everything. My heart stopped. Elena answered lightly, as if discussing the weather. I'll be pregnant within 3 months. I have my ways. Don't let him suspect anything, Arlo warned. The Hawthorns aren't simple. We only get one shot. Elena, perfectly composed. I know. Don't worry. Silence for a moment. Then Arlo stood. We've been up here too long. Let's go back down before he comes looking. Footsteps. The door opened and closed. I stayed under the bed in the dark, covered in dust, for a very, very long time. Mouth dry, hands shaking, heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. Everything I had believed in, everything I had loved, every dream of a family. It was all a performance, a cold, calculated play. The marriage I thought was true love had been built from the ground up as a trap. And I, Alexander Hawthorne, the sole heir to a multi-billion-dollar empire, was nothing more than the perfect prey in a snare named Elena Crane. I lay there until tears soaked the dusty floorboards, until I realized with horrifying clarity that my wedding night was not the beginning of happiness. It was the beginning of a nightmare. I heard their footsteps fade away, the door softly closing, then silence. The air around me suddenly felt heavy, as though all the oxygen had been sucked out. I lay rigid under the bed, body paralyzed by shock. My heart pounded so loudly in my chest it echoed in my ears like war drums. I tried to swallow, but my throat was as dry as a desert. How long had it been? 5 minutes? 10? I didn't know. All I knew was that everything I had believed in had just shattered like glass. Slowly, I pushed myself up on my elbows and crawled out from under the bed. Dust clung to my hair and face, but I didn't care. I sat up back against the wall, gasping for air. My mind spun. They knew. They knew who I really was. It hadn't been a random love sparked at a charity workshop, not chance dates. Everything had been planned. Elena didn't love me. She was targeting the Hawthorne dynasty, the mansions, the yachts, the empire my father had built. I, the only son, the sole heir, was the perfect mark for them to change their lives. The words, "The child will be the key," kept echoing in my head, twisting my stomach. They wanted my child, and I didn't dare think what came after. I wiped my tears and forced myself to stand. My legs shook like they no longer belonged to me. I looked at myself in the bedroom mirror, pale face, red eyes, lips pressed tight. I couldn't let anyone see me like this. Downstairs, the wedding party was still going, people laughing and celebrating. My parents, my friends, my colleagues, they had no idea. I had to pretend. I had to act normal. I took a deep breath, straightened my shirt, wiped my face with a tissue. "You can do this, Alex," I whispered to myself. "Just get through tonight." I opened the door and walked down the stairs. Each step felt like dragging lead, but I forced myself to keep an even pace. Laughter drifted up from the living room, glasses clinking. I paused on the last step, looking out at the small crowd. Elena stood there, radiant, laughing with a friend, wine glass in hand. Arlo was beside her, nodding politely, looking humble as always. They were standing too close. Now I saw it. Before I had thought it was just father-daughter affection. Now, my heart clenched. I stepped in, forcing a crooked smile. "Sorry, everyone. Took forever to find the album," I said, trying to sound cheerful, though my ears were ringing. Everyone clapped and pulled me over to look at the photos. I sat down, but my eyes kept drifting to Elena and Arlo. They continued chatting and smiling as if nothing had happened. She looked at me, waved, and flashed that bright smile. I nodded back, but inside my head only their words from under the bed repeated, "Get pregnant fast. The child is the key." A suffocating dread built in my chest like a ticking bomb. I clenched my fists under the table, nails digging into my palms to stay grounded. The party dragged on for another hour, an eternity for me. I smiled, shook hands, hugged people. My father clapped me on the shoulder. "Son, seeing you this happy makes me happier than you'll ever know." I nodded, fighting back tears. My mother whispered, "Elena is such a good girl. I'm so happy for you." I could only manage a twisted smile. When the last guest left, I breathed a sigh of relief. But the real nightmare was only beginning. Our wedding night. When the bedroom door closed, Elena slowly slipped out of her wedding dress and turned to me with a shy smile. "Darling, I'm exhausted, but I still want our first night to be perfect. Shall we begin?" She stepped closer, placing her hand on my chest, fingers trailing slowly. Exactly the intimate moment any husband would dream of. My whole body went rigid. My heart pounded so hard I could barely breathe. One part of me screamed to pull her close, to play the blissful husband. But the other part, the part that had just heard her coldly plotting pregnancy and murder under the bed, made my skin crawl. I stepped back half a pace, forcing an awkward smile. "I think it's the wine. I'm a little dizzy." She looked at me with those gentle eyes that now only made me want to run. I knew I couldn't touch her, not after what I'd heard. The next morning, the sun rose, but my world stayed dark. Elena woke up and kissed my cheek. "Honeymoon starts today, right?" I was so excited all night. Just want the two of us to escape for a bit. I sat up, head spinning. "Sweetheart, I'm wiped out, and something urgent came up at work. We'll have to cancel the trip. I'm sorry." She pouted, then smiled. "That's okay, we can stay home." I nodded, but inside I was thinking something else. I needed time. I needed to stay away from her. I needed the truth. Their words under the bed haunted me every second. Every time I looked at Elena, I saw that scene again. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I began secretly watching her, the way she took private calls, the way she smiled at me with eyes that no longer felt real. I needed proof. I needed the full picture before I confronted anyone. I decided to hire a private investigator. I remembered Lucas, an old contact, a discreet PI a friend had once recommended. I called him from the office, voice shaking. "Lucas, I need you to investigate my wife and her stepfather. Everything. Full background. Don't ask why." He agreed and set a meeting at a quiet suburban cafe. We met that afternoon. Lucas, 50-ish, silver hair, eyes sharp as knives. I told him the short version in a whisper. He nodded. "I'll do it. But brace yourself, Alex. The truth can hurt." The waiting days were hell. At home, I pretended to be the loving husband, cooking together, holding her, but every touch made me nauseous. She never suspected. She was almost happier. One night she said, eyes sparkling, "Honey, let's try for a baby." I nodded, but inside I was ice. I avoided intimacy by working late, sleeping in the guest room. A week later, Lucas called. "Meet me now. I have what you need to see." My heart raced. We met in an empty park. He handed me a thick envelope. I opened it with shaking hands. First, surveillance photos. Elena visiting Arlo's house, not just once. Them embracing at the door, kissing in the garage. Clear shots dated years before I met her. I went numb. They were together long before me? Lucas nodded. 2 years before you, not father and daughter, lovers. Then the audio. Lucas played it from his phone. Elena's voice. "Arlo, he's taken the bait. The Hawthorne dynasty, we're going to be rich." Arlo laughing. "Good. Get close, make him fall in love, marry him. That was the plan from the start. There's no love here, just money." They discussed every detail. How she accidentally met me at the workshop. How she drew me in. How she hid her real identity. The goal: infiltrate the family, have a child, seize the fortune. I collapsed onto a park bench, head spinning. Tears fell again. Pain like a knife in the heart. I wasn't a man chosen for love. I was just a pawn. The perfect pawn in a plot to steal the Hawthorne empire. Elena didn't love me. She loved my money. Arlo was the mastermind and she was the weapon. The envelope from Lucas weighed heavily on my lap, like a lead weight dragging me into the abyss. The suburban park was silent except for the rustle of leaves in the evening breeze, but inside my head a storm raged. The surveillance photos. Elena and Arlo embracing in a dark garage, lips pressed together, arms locked tight. Like real lovers. Not stepfather and stepdaughter. Lovers. Long before she accidentally met me at that charity workshop. The audio. Her giggling voice laying out the plan to hook me, marry me, and infiltrate the Hawthorne empire. "He's sweet but so naive," she had said. I played it over and over. Each replay was another knife in the chest. There was no doubt left. The marriage I had trusted, the kisses, the whispered "I love you," everything was a lie. Cold, calculated. I wiped my tears, tried to breathe deeply, but my chest felt crushed. How could I go home, look her in the eye, and pretend nothing had happened? I wasn't ready to confront her. I needed more. I needed to dig deeper. I called Lucas right there from the park bench, voice trembling. "Lucas, this isn't enough. I need you to go deeper. Not just their relationship, everything. Other connections, past history, finances, everything." He was quiet for a moment, then sighed. "Are you sure, Alex? What I find might be worse." I closed my eyes, gripping the phone with an ice-cold hand. "I'm sure. I need the truth." The following days were hell. I went home, smiled at Elena, cooked with her, but every gesture was fake. She hugged me from behind while I washed dishes. "Honey, what's wrong? You look exhausted lately." I turned, kissed her cheek. Just work, babe. I'm fine. At night, I lay awake replaying memories. The first date when she cried about her mother's death. Now I realized it was probably an act. I shuddered, pulled the blanket over my face, and tried not to cry. Lucas worked faster than I expected. 3 days later, an email. Meet me at the usual place. There's something important you have to know. I arrived at the small cafe, heart pounding like it would explode. Lucas sat there, face grave, and slid a thicker file across the table. We'll start with Elena's mother, he said. She died 4 years ago, officially recorded as a sudden cardiac event. But the details are murky. I opened the file, hands shaking slightly. Hospital records. Eleanor Crane, Elena's biological mother, admitted for sudden chest pain. Doctors diagnosed heart failure but noted patient had a good chance of recovery with continued treatment. Yet on the day she died, Elena and Arlo were the ones who signed the forms to discontinue all life-saving measures. Only the two of them, no other relatives. I read it again and again. Why stop treatment? She could have been saved. Lucas pointed to the next page. Insurance policy. Eleanor had a life insurance policy worth nearly $1 million. Sole beneficiary, Arlo Crane. The payout was processed 3 days after her death. I went numb. $1 million. All to Arlo, the stepfather, Eleanor's husband. Then a recorded statement from a former nurse. Lucas had tracked her down. I remember that day clearly, the nurse said, voice trembling. The young woman, Elena, didn't cry, didn't panic. She calmly signed the papers like she'd rehearsed it. The husband, Arlo, kept urging us to hurry, saying she's suffered enough. It was strange. Usually family members are sobbing, begging us to save their loved one. But they were cold. I listened to the recording. The nurse's voice echoed in my ears. My stomach twisted. Calm. Elena didn't cry. I remembered her telling me about her mother with tears in her eyes. She died so suddenly, it hurt so much. Now I knew it was a lie. Everything lined up too neatly. Hospital admission. Treatment stopped. Forms signed. Death certificate. Insurance paid out. All within days. Not a natural death. Lucas nodded. I believe they intervened. Poisoning or something similar. No direct proof. Yet, then the financial trail. Bank statements Lucas had obtained. After the insurance payout, Arlo made a series of unexplained transfers. A large chunk, about $200,000, went straight into Elena's account. She used it for shopping, travel, small investments. They were accomplices in insurance fraud. They killed Eleanor Crane for $1 million. Lucas handed me the full dossier. Photos, recordings, bank records, medical files. I read every page in that cafe, hands shaking so hard I could barely hold the coffee. It went cold untouched. I was starting to understand. Arlo and Elena had done this before. Killing Elena's own mother, Arlo's wife, for money. Now they were repeating the pattern with me, on a much larger scale. Not 1 million, but tens of billions from the Hawthorne empire. My child would be the key, the legal heir, and then I would disappear. Every clue pointed the same way. Arlo had a history. Eleanor might not have been his first victim. Lucas suggested digging even deeper, but it was enough. They followed a pattern. Get close, exploit, kill, collect. With me, Elena's plan had 3 steps. Get close, marry me, have a child, then kill me. I gripped the file, rage, heartbreak, and terror swirling together. Rage at being deceived. Heartbreak that my love was a lie, terror that my life was in danger. I could no longer believe a single word Elena had ever said. Every I love you, every embrace, pure deception. Was she a murderer or just an accomplice? I stood up trembling and walked home through the biting wind. My heart was colder than the air. Lucas's final note in the file. Eleanor Crane's death was only the beginning. Alex, be extremely careful. This criminal pattern is repeating exactly as before. I read it, then burned the words into my mind. I had to act. But how? Police? My parents? I didn't know yet. All I knew was that from now on I lived in fear. Every meal with Elena, I wondered, what if she poisons me? Every night beside her, I thought, when will they make their move? That afternoon, I came home carrying a small bag of tiny electronic devices I had hastily ordered online from a security store. Hidden cameras, voice recorders, minuscule things that could save my life. Elena was in the kitchen humming as she cooked dinner, the warm smell of grilled meat filling the air. I forced a smile and hugged her from behind. I was tired today, but I missed you so much I rushed home. She turned, kissed my cheek. I made your favorite. Go change, dinner's hot. I nodded, but inside I was ice cold. This home? No, this was a death trap. That night, while Elena slept soundly, I quietly installed cameras all over the house. Tiny orbs hidden in the living room bookshelf, the kitchen corner, the dark hallway, even the bookcase where she often sat to make private calls. The voice recorders went under the dining table behind curtains. Everything connected to an app on my phone with real-time alerts. My hands shook as I set them up, sweat dripping, terrified she'd wake. What if she catches me? I thought, heart hammering, but I had to do it. I was living with two murderers, Arlo and Elena, who had already killed her own mother for insurance money. Now I was the target. From the next day on, I kept playing the perfect husband. I woke early to make her coffee, smiling. You're so beautiful. Seeing you like this makes my whole day. At night, I held her, whispering, I love you, always. But inside, I was dying. Every smile was fake. Every touch was torture. Elena suspected nothing. She glowed, convinced her. Deceive. Get pregnant. Seize the fortune. Plan was going perfectly. She didn't know I already knew everything. Her affair with Arlo, the plot to seduce me, the murder of her mother. I pretended to buy time and gather evidence, but the fear grew. Every time she poured water, I wondered, is it poisoned? I started checking food, letting her eat first before I touched anything. From the very first recordings, I uncovered even more horrifying truths. That first night, the app sent an audio file from the kitchen. I listened at the office, headphones clamped tight. Elena whispering on the phone, Arlo, I already poked holes in the condoms. Tonight he won't suspect a thing. My stomach lurched. Poked holes? To get pregnant on purpose? I remembered the night before. She had tried to seduce me, but I dodged it with the excuse of being tired. Now I knew it was a trap. Another clip, her secretly slipping something into juice. Audio caught the rattle of a bottle, then her muttering to herself, this stimulant will make him unable to say no. I sat frozen, fists clenched on the desk. She was engineering intimacy, forcing me into the role of father-to-be, tightening the noose. Then one afternoon at work, my phone buzzed. App alert. Unusual movement detected. I opened it, heart racing. Clear footage from the living room. Elena at home in thin sleepwear, and then Arlo walked in. He pushed through the door like he owned the place and pulled her into his arms right at the threshold. I went numb, hand shaking as I held the phone. They kissed passionately in the middle of the living room, the same room where I used to watch movies with her, the room I thought was our home. Arlo ran his hands down her back, whispered something, then pulled her onto the sofa. They tangled together. I watched, heart crushed, tears spilling. This was my wife? Cheating on me in our own house, with her stepfather, her real lover. I turned off the screen, slumped over my desk, gasping. Pain like a blade. But then rage took over. Determination surged. I turned it back on and recorded everything. After they finished, they sat and talked. And that's when I heard something even worse. Arlo's low voice. You're doing great. Now we speed things up. I'm getting the old chemical, the same one we used on your mother. It weakens a person slowly, looks like a natural death, no trace. I froze. The same chemical that killed her mother? He just admitted it. Elena, perfectly calm. Yeah, I know. When will you have it? Arlo chuckled softly. Soon. Start using it on him. Put it in food, drinks. He'll waste away, die of some mysterious underlying condition. No one will suspect. My heart stopped. They were going to murder me, with the same poison used on Eleanor Crane. I sat motionless in my office, trembling with fury and despair. Elena, the woman I once loved, was casually discussing killing her husband. Only once you're pregnant, Arlo continued, can he disappear. The child will inherit the Hawthorne fortune and we control it. Elena laughed. I'll get pregnant fast. He's almost ready to fall for it. I couldn't believe my ears. Rage exploded, but despair was stronger. I had thought, even if her love was fake, that she at least felt something. But no, she was ready to kill. I downloaded every video, audio file, and photo to a personal hard drive, backed it up on 2 separate USBs, one hidden in the office, one in my car, sent an encrypted copy to Lucas. This is critical evidence. Keep it safe for me. This was undeniable proof. Adultery, conspiracy to murder, plot to seize assets. In the midst of unbearable pain, I understood. This was no longer a failed marriage. It was a fight for my life. They wanted me dead. I made my decision. From this moment on, I would fight back. No more waiting, but I had to be smart. I closed the app, took a deep breath, and drove home as if nothing had happened. I arrived home, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The suburban house that had once been my sanctuary now felt like a dark trap. Elena was in the kitchen, whistling happily, the warm smell of grilled meat filling the air. I forced a smile and stepped inside. I'm home, love. It was a crazy day, but the second I thought of coming back to you, everything felt lighter. She turned, wrapped her arms around me, and kissed my cheek. You're just in time. Go wash up, dinner's ready. I want to hear about your day. I hugged her back, but inside I was thinking, are you planning to poison this meal? I pretended to be cheerful, sat at the table, but kept my eyes on everything, spice jars, water glasses, now all suspicious. I took a few bites, then claimed I was full and quietly dumped the rest when she wasn't looking. That night I lay beside her, eyes wide open, listening to her steady breathing. My heart pounded, waiting. Would she wake up and pour me a special glass of water? The following days I lived in constant terror, but rage pushed me to act. I couldn't stay silent anymore. After watching that horrific video, Arlo and Elena entwined, calmly discussing buying the same poison used on her mother to kill me slowly, I knew I had to stop pretending. I decided to go to my parents' estate. It was the safest place where I could reveal everything without being overheard. I drove there one drizzling morning, heart heavy. The Hawthorne estate in Malibu, vast, surrounded by lush gardens and an infinity pool overlooking the ocean. I had avoided living here to keep things simple, but now it felt like a fortress. Dad Harvey opened the door, surprised. Son, what brings you here so suddenly? Is something wrong? Mom Juniper rushed out from the kitchen and hugged me. Alex, you look pale. Come in. I followed them into the living room, clutching the hard drive with all the evidence, photos, videos, recordings, Lucas's files. I sat on the soft leather sofa, took a deep breath. Mom, Dad, I need to tell you everything about Elena and her stepfather. I told them from the beginning, voice shaking. The wedding night under the bed, their secret affair, the pregnancy scheme and plan to seize the Hawthorne fortune, the murder of Elena's mother for insurance money. I opened the laptop and played the recording of Arlo discussing the poison. It'll weaken him slowly. A natural death, no trace. Dad listened, face growing pale, fists clenched on the armrests. Mom covered her mouth, tears streaming. My God, Alex, how could a wife do that? When I finished, Dad shot to his feet, face red with fury. Who dares harm my only son? He slammed his fist on the table, the sound echoing. Mom sobbed. How? Elena seemed so gentle. They were almost losing control, Dad pacing, Mom clinging to me, crying. They had never imagined anyone would dare target me, the sole heir of the Hawthorne dynasty, in such a ruthless way. Dad growled, "They think the Hawthornes are weak. They're dead wrong." Without hesitation, he sprang into action. He called the family's private investigative team, far superior to Lucas' ex-FBI with limitless resources. "Focus everything on Arlo Crane," he ordered. He hired the top criminal attorneys in Los Angeles, sharks who handled the biggest cases, and discreet security, professionals who would protect me from a distance, tracking every move without being seen. I sat there watching my parents take charge, feeling both warmth and fear. "Stay here a few days," Mom said, voice trembling. "I'm not comfortable with you at that house." I nodded, but inside I thought, Mom, I have to go back. I have to face her." In just days, the family investigators dug deeper. They uncovered Arlo's first wife, Miriam Crane, who died suddenly 10 years ago. Almost identical pattern: sudden heart failure, life support discontinued, insurance paid out fast. They found receipts for controlled industrial chemicals bought on the black market. Security footage showed Arlo at a warehouse on the outskirts of LA, cap pulled low, receiving a package. Old insurance records: Arlo sole beneficiary, $500,000. Everything fit the pattern: kill the wife, collect the money. The investigators compiled it all chronologically, from the first wife to Elena's mother to the current plot against me. They handed it to Dad's legal team. "This is a major criminal case, Mr. Alex," the lead attorney said over video call. "We have enough for murder, attempted murder, and fraud charges. It will be both a criminal and civil landmark." Dad nodded. "Do it. Protect my son first." With ironclad evidence, photos, videos, recordings, receipts, records, I decided to confront Elena one final time. Not to forgive, but to see if there was even a shred of truth left in her, or if it was all just an act. I drove back to the suburban house, heart pounding like it would explode. Rain poured harder, drumming on the windshield. I thought of our memories, the first meeting, her gentle smile, cooking together, now all shattered. That evening I walked in. Elena was watching TV and revealing sleepwear, beaming. "Honey, I've been waiting forever." She ran to hug me, but I stiffened. Her good wife act now made me nauseous. I gently pushed her away, voice cold. "Sit down. We need to talk." She frowned. "Why are you acting strange? What's wrong?" I sat across from her, took a deep breath. "You and Arlo are lovers. You plan to get pregnant, then kill me and take the Hawthorne fortune." Elena looked shocked, eyes wide. "What are you talking about? I don't understand." She denied everything frantically. "You've lost your mind. I really love you. You must have stopped loving me and made this up to hurt me." She burst into tears, playing the wronged wife, covering her face. "You've changed, Alex. Is work stressing you out?" I stayed silent, watching her perform. My heart ached. She was good, but I knew everything now. I pulled photos from my bag, Elena and Arlo embracing in the garage, kissing in a hotel, and placed them on the table, voice calm. "Explain these." She stared, face draining of color. No more denials. She collapsed, hands shaking as she picked up the photos, tears streaming. She fell to her knees, clinging to my legs. "Alex, I was wrong. It was Arlo. He forced me. I don't deserve forgiveness. I just want to return the wedding ring because I'm not worthy." I stood there, silent, watching her desperation. Emotions swirled, pain from the broken love, disgust at the lies, emptiness from losing everything. She sobbed, "Let me get the ring, then I'll leave." I nodded slightly. She stood, wiped her tears, and walked to the bedroom. I sat down, exhaled, thinking, it's finally over. But I had no idea that moment would unleash something new. In the shadows of the house, someone far more dangerous than Elena was waiting to appear. I sat there, slumped against the sofa, staring blankly at the polished wooden floor. The living room that once rang with laughter was now as silent as a tomb. Rain kept pattering against the windows. The wind howled through the cracks like the whispers of demons. I thought back over the past months, From the moment I met Elena at that charity workshop, her gentle smile, to our dates under the oak trees, the sweet nothing she whispered in my ear. Now it all felt like a nightmare, a play in which I had been the naive lead. My heart still ached, though I tried to suppress it. How could I have been so blind? I asked myself, fingers digging into the armrest until my nails broke skin. My tears had run dry. Only a vast emptiness remained. From the bedroom I heard Elena rummaging, drawers opening and closing, soft footsteps on the floor. I assumed she was getting the ring, maybe shedding a few more fake tears. I didn't want to see her again, didn't want to hear another excuse. I just wanted it over, wanted her gone from my life forever. Then the footsteps grew closer. Elena emerged from the bedroom holding the glittering wedding ring under the dim light. Her face was a picture of remorse, eyes swollen, cheeks streaked with tears. She looked pitiful, but I felt no pity. Is this real or just another act? I wondered, heart racing with suspicion. She didn't head for the door as I expected. Instead, Elena suddenly dropped to her knees in front of me, clutching my legs so tightly her nails dug through my pants, as if letting go would make me vanish from her life forever. She looked up, eyes brimming with tears, voice breaking between sobs. Alex, I really do love you. Everything. Everything was because Arlo forced me. He threatened me, made me do it. I never wanted this. Please don't turn me in. Give me one chance. Tears poured down her face, her whole body shaking as she clung to me like a desperate creature begging for one more day of life. But the way she held on, too desperately, too dramatically, didn't feel like genuine remorse. She wouldn't let go, gripping tighter, eyes flicking quickly toward the back door. Something felt wrong. A dark premonition rose inside me. Why is she trying so hard to stall? I thought, heart pounding faster. She didn't look repentant. She looked like she was buying time, waiting for someone. I tried to pull my leg away, but she clung harder. Please, Alex, I love you. Her voice rose almost to a scream. The instant I stepped back, danger hit me like instinct. The hair on my neck stood up. Goosebumps covered my skin. I heard a strange sound, a faint creak from the back door, then a loud crash. The door was kicked open, wood splintering everywhere. Arlo burst in from the darkness, face twisted with rage, eyes bloodshot like a cornered animal. He wore a black jacket, hair disheveled, snarling, "So you know everything now. Doesn't matter. You're dead." My heart slammed against my ribs. I saw the black pistol in his hand, barrel pointed straight at me. Arlo charged with terrifying speed, intent on ending it instantly. He had clearly been listening, patience gone. He was ready to kill me right here and bury all the evidence. "Die, you bastard," he roared, finger tightening on the trigger. But Arlo had no idea I had been trained in martial arts since childhood, under the strict demands of the Hawthorne family. My father had always said, "You must be strong. Wealth brings danger." I trained for hours every day in karate and jiu-jitsu starting at age 10. Instinct took over. In one fluid motion, I sidestepped his lunge, struck his wrist hard, and sent the gun flying across the floor. Arlo stumbled and fell, but scrambled back up, eyes blazing. "You're dead," he snarled, reaching for the weapon. I bolted toward the front door, heart in my throat. "Where are the bodyguards? Help! He's got a gun!" I screamed inside my head. Seconds later, my security team, secretly stationed by my father, burst through the front door, massive figures in black, guns drawn. They formed a wall in front of me, pushing me behind them. "Drop it. Put the weapon down," one shouted, aiming at Arlo. He froze, face ashen but eyes still wild. Police sirens wailed closer, growing louder and sharper like a death knell. A convoy of patrol cars and SWAT vehicles screeched to a halt in front of the house, red and blue lights flashing across the entire street. They surrounded the building, rifles ready, loudspeaker blaring. "This is the police. Drop your weapon." Arlo was cornered against the wall, back pressed flat, gun trembling in his hand. Panic made him more dangerous, eyes darting madly, sweat pouring. He suddenly grabbed Elena from behind, yanking her in front of him as a human shield. "Stay back. Come closer and I'll kill her. You hear me?" he screamed, pressing the barrel to her temple. Elena was shaking uncontrollably, face white with terror, eyes wide in horror. She finally understood. Arlo had never seen her as a real partner. She was just a tool, disposable when needed. "Arlo, don't shoot me, don't do anything stupid," she whispered, voice breaking, hands trembling as she tried to pry his arm away. He tightened his grip. "Shut up, or I'll shoot you first. This is all your fault. You ruined everything." Police and my bodyguards didn't dare advance. The air in the house was stretched to breaking point. One wrong move could get Elena hurt, or worse. The police commander outside shouted through the megaphone, "Drop the gun! The area is surrounded. There's no escape." My bodyguard whispered, "Sir, please step back. Stay safe." But I stood frozen, facing Arlo, breathing hard, heart pounding like war drums. My eyes were ice cold despite the chaos inside. I knew one tiny mistake could end this night in blood, and no one could predict what Arlo would do next. Arlo stood with his back pressed against the living room wall, the muzzle of his pistol jammed hard against Elena's temple. He was growing more feral by the second, eyes bloodshot, the look of a man who knew he had no way out. His breathing came in heavy, ragged gasps, chest heaving like a wounded animal ready to make a final, desperate stand. His hands shook, yet he held on, one arm locked around Elena's throat, the other gripping the gun, thumb hovering over the trigger. He snarled, voice shrill with panic, "Don't come any closer. One more step and we all die. I'll kill this bitch first, then the rest of you." His threat pushed the tension to breaking point. The police outside froze. My bodyguards tightened their grips on their weapons. The air in the room turned to lead. One cough, one wrong move, and everything could explode. I stared at Arlo, forcing myself to stay calm even as my heart hammered. He was no longer the quiet, humble stepfather I'd once met. He was a murderer unmasked, ready to drag as many lives down with him as possible. Elena trembled in his grip like a leaf in autumn, face ashen, eyes wide with terror. She whispered, "Arlo, let me go." But he only tightened his hold. "Shut up. You ruined everything." I could see real fear in her eyes now, no more acting. She finally understood he had never truly seen her as a partner, only a tool. And now, a human shield. The police commander outside shouted through the megaphone, "We don't want casualties. Release the hostage and let's talk." But Arlo laughed, a twisted, broken sound. "Talk? You think I'm stupid? I know that Hawthorne brat called you. I'm not letting you take me." He glared at me, pure hatred burning in his eyes. "You little bastard. My plan was perfect. You were supposed to die slowly, painlessly. Now, you die right here." I swallowed hard, fighting not to shake. My bodyguard whispered, "Sir, step back. He's losing it. Let the police handle this." But I didn't move. I wanted to look the man who tried to kill me straight in the eye. Rain pounded harder outside. Thunder rumbled, lightning flashes illuminating the room through the windows. I thought of the nights I'd lain beside Elena, listening to her breathe, dreaming of a family. Now it was all a nightmare. Arlo kept shouting, "I want a car in 15 minutes, or this bitch dies first." Elena sobbed, "Alex, help me, he's insane." Her voice cracked, but I felt no pity. She had plotted my murder, slept with Arlo in my own house, yet seeing her shake, a flicker of compassion still passed through me. She was a victim of the very scheme she helped create. After a few tense radio exchanges, the police commander was forced to yield. This was a densely populated suburb. Gunfire could hurt innocents. He shouted, "Fine. We're clearing a safe corridor. Release the hostage and you walk." Arlo shook his head. "No. She stays with me as a shield. Everyone back off." The commander sighed and gave the order. "All units fall back. Clear the path." My bodyguards had no choice but to comply with police instructions. They tried to pull me away, but I resisted. "No, I'm staying right here." I stood watching, fists clenched with helpless fury, as the man who wanted me dead dragged Elena toward the back door, using her as a living shield. He inched backward into the dark backyard, keeping her pressed against him. She cried, "Arlo, you're hurting me, let go." But he shoved her into the passenger seat of a black sedan already waiting in the alley, buckling her in to limit resistance, then jumped behind the wheel, gun still aimed at her. The car roared off into the night, headlights cutting long streaks through the rain-soaked streets, tires screeching like a blade slicing the air. Instantly, a convoy of police cars took up pursuit, sirens wailing through the neighborhood. Red and blue lights flashed, patrol cars raced after him. A police helicopter thundered overhead, its spotlight piercing the darkness, painting a white beam across the fleeing car like a predator's gaze. I refused to stand still. "Get in the car, we're following," I shouted to my security team. We leapt into the family's black SUV, engine roaring as we joined the chase behind the police column. I sat in the back, eyes locked on the car ahead, Arlo's sedan, where Elena was now a helpless hostage. My heart pounded, hands gripping the seat. What will happen to her with a madman like that, I thought. No matter how much I hated her, I didn't want her dead. The pursuit tore through streets from the suburbs into downtown LA. Sirens echoed off skyscrapers, red and blue lights reflected wildly on glass towers. Traffic parted like the Red Sea. Civilians peered from windows. Arlo drove like a maniac, swerving through intersections, nearly crashing several times. I watched through the windshield as his car sped ahead, headlights blinding. The helicopter's spotlight stayed glued to him. "Where is he going?" I whispered. My bodyguard answered, "Main Boulevard. Police have it blocked ahead." They kept a safe distance to avoid provoking him. He might shoot Elena or cause a pileup. But quietly, roadblocks were being set, spike strips, barricades, hidden units. The radio crackled, "Wilshire Boulevard is sealed. We're ready." I clenched my fists, sweat pouring. Rain made the road slick. Every turn made my stomach lurch. When Arlo turned onto the wide boulevard, he spotted the barricade, steel barriers and flashing patrol cars. Before he could react, units closed in from both sides, boxing him in and forcing him to brake hard. Tires screamed. His car fishtailed violently to the right, spun 180 degrees on the wet pavement, and came to a halt wedged between two police cruisers. Smoke rose from burning rubber. In seconds, SWAT descended, windows smashed with battering rams, tires spiked, ballistic shields raised. Every move was textbook, practiced 1,000 times. I jumped out and ran closer, heart in my throat. One SWAT officer seized the perfect moment while Arlo was dazed from the impact. He yanked Elena from the passenger seat while others pinned Arlo to the steering wheel and disarmed him in under 3 seconds. Elena collapsed into the officer's arms, shaking uncontrollably, face ghost white, eyes vacant. Arlo was slammed face down onto the hood, wrists cuffed tight, still screaming uselessly. "Let me go! You'll never take me alive." The helicopter spotlight pinned him like a caged beast. Police dragged him into the prisoner transport van. He twisted around for one last look at me, eyes blazing with hatred. "Alex, you'll regret this." I ran forward, stopping just a few feet from Elena. She sat on the wet ground, wrapped in a blanket by medics, sobbing and shaking. My own eyes burned. From stress, from rage at Arlo, from fury at Elena, from anger at myself for ever loving her. He was caught. The nightmare night finally ended with the monster fully subdued. I exhaled, shoulders sagging. An officer patted my back. "You're safe now, sir." But I knew the wound in my heart would take far longer to heal. The rain kept drumming on the wet asphalt, police lights flashing across the entire neighborhood like a scene from an action movie I never wanted to star in. Arlo was taken away that same night, hands cuffed behind his back, still screaming into the darkness. "You'll regret this. It's not over." He was shoved into the prison van, the door slammed shut, and the vehicle sped off into the downpour. I stood watching, fists clenched, feeling that one part of the nightmare had ended, but another part still haunted me. Elena was rushed to the nearest hospital for examination, shaking, pale, eyes vacant from shock. Doctors checked for injuries, gave her a sedative, then transferred her to a holding area for witnesses turned accomplices. Before they led her away, she looked at me one last time, eyes brimming with tears, mouth opening as if to speak, but I turned away. I didn't want to hear it. She was no longer my wife, just a piece of the plot that had nearly killed me. I went back to my parents' estate and didn't sleep that night. Dad put a hand on my shoulder. "Son, you really worried your old man, you know that?" Mom hugged me and cried, "Thank God, thank heaven, you're safe." But I lay awake, mind spinning with images of Arlo's gun, Elena's tears. The next morning, the interrogations began. Police and the family's legal team worked around the clock. Arlo was questioned first, sitting behind glass, gaunt and defiant, refusing to cooperate. But under the weight of evidence, bank transfers from insurance payouts, receipts for black market poison, recordings of him plotting my murder with Elena, photos of their affair, video from my own house, his denials collapsed. The prosecutor laid it all out. How do you explain the chemicals? Or signing to discontinue life support for your wives? Arlo went silent, face ashen. After 10 days of stonewalling, the psychological pressure broke him. Maybe it was sleepless nights in a cell or the cold stare of the interrogator. He confessed everything. From poisoning his first wife, Miriam, with chemicals that slowly induced heart failure to claim $500,000 in insurance. Then Eleanor, Elena's mother. The same method, stopping treatment to collect $1 million. And finally, the plan for me. Using Elena to seduce, marry, impregnate, then kill me so the child would inherit the Hawthorne fortune. "I just wanted a better life," he muttered, voice breaking. The Hawthornes were too rich. The plan was perfect at first. I listened to the interrogation recording in my father's office, hands shaking with rage. He spilled it all, like a deflating balloon. Elena was different. At first, she clung to innocence, sitting in her holding cell with red eyes. "He forced me. Arlo made me do it." She sobbed, talked about her difficult childhood, how Arlo manipulated her. But the evidence from Lucas and the Hawthorne investigators cornered her. They showed the affair photos, the recordings of her plotting, the bank transfers from the insurance money. "How do you explain the video where you say kill Alex after the baby is born?" the interrogator asked. Elena completely collapsed, head bowed, and admitted her role as an accomplice. She had helped Arlo cover up murders, used me to climb into wealth, and was willing to poison me herself. 3 months later, the Los Angeles court opened the trial. The media exploded. This involved the Hawthorne family, a quiet but immensely powerful dynasty. Reporters swarmed the courthouse, paparazzi jostling, headlines screaming, "Plot to murder billionaire heir." I stayed away, but my parents attended. The trial lasted weeks. The family lawyers presented irrefutable evidence, falsified medical records for Eleanor and Miriam, insurance transfer documents, recordings from my house of the murder plot, and especially the video of Arlo and Elena discussing killing Alex after the baby. The jury watched, faces pale. It took them less than 2 hours to reach a verdict. Arlo was convicted of first-degree murder in the deaths of his 2 wives, attempted murder against me, insurance fraud, and hostage-taking during the chase. Sentenced to life without parole. He heard the verdict blankly, then screamed, "This isn't fair! You rich bastards used money to lock me up for life!" But the cuffs tightened, and he was dragged away. Elena was convicted as an accomplice in the murder conspiracy and cover-up. Sentenced to 25 years with possibility of reduction for good behavior, but her future essentially destroyed. After the trial, I returned to ordinary life, back to my modest job at the small tech company, back to the suburban house, now scrubbed clean of every trace of Elena. I threw out the wedding photos, changed the sheets, erased her from the space. I worked to heal the psychological scars from those hellish months. Nightmares of guns and poison, of fake smiles. I ran every morning, cooked alone, read books to push the painful past away. One autumn morning, a cool breeze blowing through the window, I received a visitor request from the women's prison. Elena's trembling handwriting. "Alex, I know I don't deserve it, but please meet me one last time. I need to apologize sincerely." I held the letter, hands shaking. I read it over and over, heart in turmoil. I decided to go, not to forgive, but to close that painful chapter. I drove to the prison, familiar roads passing by, nerves jangling, cold concrete walls, high fences, razor wire. I went through security and sat in the visitation room. Through the thick glass I saw Elena, gray prison uniform, much thinner, hair messy, face gaunt. Her eyes were tormented and desperate. The moment she saw me, she broke down, tears streaming uncontrollably. She pressed her palms together against the glass. "Alex, thank you for coming. I accept all my guilt. I know I was horribly wrong. I beg you to forgive me even though I don't deserve it." She sobbed, talking about prison, regret, the nights she thought of me. I looked at her for a long time without speaking. No anger, no blame, just emptiness after everything. Finally, I placed an envelope on the counter and slid it toward her. "This is the divorce papers and my final words." I paused, then continued, voice calm and eerily steady. "We end here. I hope you reform well." I stood, turned, and walked out without looking back once. Behind me, her cries echoed, desperately calling my name. But I kept walking, leaving behind the woman who had once destroyed my life. When I stepped outside, autumn sunlight warmed my face, gentle and kind. I realized clearly. The old chapter was closed, and I had finally freed myself. The wind blew, carrying golden leaves away, sweeping the pain with them. I drove home, heart lighter than it had ever been. I drove slowly along the familiar suburban road. The window cracked open, letting in the scent of damp earth after the rain. My little house appeared at the end of the street with its backyard vegetable patch and the bougainvillea trellis my mother had once helped me plant. I used to think this place was home, but now it was just a temporary refuge after the storm. I stepped inside, closed the door, and collapsed onto the sofa with a long sigh. The case was closed. Arlo. Life without parole. Elena. 25 years. Justice had been served, yet the scar in my heart remained, throbbing whenever I remembered the sleepless nights, the gunshots, her fake smile. I told myself, "It's over, Alex. You'll be okay." I started cleaning, throwing out everything that reminded me of her. The mug she always used, the book she gave me, even the bed sheets. Each item I tossed away released a piece of the pain. A few weeks later, my father called. His voice was warm but weary. "Son, the case is finished. I think it's time for me to retire." Harvey Hawthorne, the man who had carried the Hawthorne dynasty on his shoulders for over 40 years, was finally tired. He had built it from nothing, from the first plots of land in Los Angeles to tens of billions across real estate, finance, and technology. But the attempt on my life had shown him that family mattered more than anything. "I want you to come back," he said seriously. "Learn to take over and carry it forward. This empire is our family's legacy. It needs you to keep it strong." I was silent for a moment, watching autumn leaves drift past the window. I had always run from that world, craving simplicity. But now, after everything, I saw he was right. I needed to grow up, for real. I thought about it for months. Long nights lying awake, remembering his words. "Wealth is a privilege, but kindness is a choice." The nightmare with Elena taught me that running away solves nothing. I had to face it, protect the legacy my parents had poured their lives into. I remembered afternoons at the Malibu estate, Dad telling me about his poor childhood, how he rose from nothing. "Don't let it collapse because there's no one to lead it," he had said. After months of walking alone on the beach thinking about life, I agreed. "Dad, I've thought it through. I'll come back and take over the family." I said it firmly over the phone. Dad laughed. "Good, I'm proud of you, son." I returned to Hawthorne Dynasty headquarters in downtown Los Angeles. the gleaming tower with the Hawthorne logo I had once avoided. At first, everything felt foreign. Endless meetings, complex financial reports, negotiations with giant partners. I started from scratch like any new employee, even though I was the heir. Dad guided me patiently. "Son, finance is the foundation. Learn to read these reports first." I spent hours with advisors, learning operations, balancing profit with social responsibility. Mom advised, "No matter how big you become, never forget to treat people kindly." I learned high-level negotiation, looking partners in the eye, persuading without forcing. The first months were hard. I worked late, woke early, sometimes ran at midnight to burn off stress. But gradually I adapted. I became a real leader, not flashy but humble and decisive. In just 2 years, I expanded Hawthorne Dynasty into clean technology, investing in renewable energy, solar batteries, eco-friendly electric vehicles. I remember one key meeting. We don't just make money. We save the planet. Partners nodded, contracts were signed. Then green infrastructure, energy-efficient buildings, urban parks, and humanitarian investment funds supporting poor children, education, healthcare, just like Mom had always done. I became a respected CEO. The press called me the humble heir, though I avoided interviews. I kept the family growing without losing its human core. Every decision thought of people, not just profit. Colleagues who once doubted me saw how hard I worked, how I listened, how I respected them. Harvey and Juniper watched me mature with pride. Dad, now retired, often stopped by the office and clapped my shoulder. "Your projects are excellent. I'm very satisfied. You've done better than I ever did." Mom smiled. "You've kept your kindness, humility, and good heart, just as we taught you. I'm so content." Despite the tragedy, the case, the betrayal, nearly dying, I remained the same simple Alex. I still drove my old car, ate at cheap diners, but now carried greater responsibility. I thought, that storm made me stronger. At 32, my life turned a new page. I met Rosie Bennett at a charity event supporting a local preschool. She was a teacher, natural, gentle, in a simple cotton dress, hair in a ponytail, telling stories to the children. Her smile was warm. Her eyes sparkled when she looked at the kids. I stood watching, heart-stirring. It felt like the first time I saw Elena, but this time it was real, honest. She laughed. "Hi, Alex. Here to help the kids." We talked, and I felt peace. The peace I thought I'd lost forever after the case. Rosie was nothing like Elena. She never asked about family or money, just talked about children, books, walks in the park. Our first date was at a little cafe. She told me about growing up in San Francisco, her dream of teaching. I told her about my simple life, no mention of Hawthorne. She laughed. "You're so kind. I've never met anyone as gentle as you." Love grew naturally like a soft breeze. Beach walks, cooking together, stargazing. She brought me calm. No drama, no secrets. Later, by chance, we discovered the truth about each other. One evening, Rosie said, "I'm from the Bennett Group, but I prefer simple things." I froze. The Bennett Group, an old money dynasty in San Francisco, as private as the Hawthorns. I laughed. "Babe, I'm Hawthorne Dynasty." We hugged and laughed in shock. The coincidence brought our families together. My parents met hers. They talked like old friends. I realized, this time I loved the right person. Not for background, but because her heart for me was real. Rosie loved simple Alex, not the billionaire. A year later, we married, small, warm, exactly my style. Then the greatest joy. Rosie became pregnant with twins. Mateo Hawthorne and Amina Hawthorne were born, 2 rosy, bright-eyed babies. I held them, tears falling. They gave me the complete family I thought I'd never have again after Elena. On quiet afternoons, watching the twins play in the yard, Mateo toddling around, Amina giggling, I understood. Every pain, betrayal, and storm of the past had been a necessary path to grow me into the man who could truly cherish the happiness I have now. I want to share my life's message with you. Wealth doesn't protect an unguarded heart. Never give trust blindly, but when you find the right person, love with all your heart. I will tell my children one day, teaching them kindness the way my parents taught me. I believe everyone deserves a new chapter. Wounds are not meant to destroy us, but to remind us to choose the right people, live the right way, and never lose our core goodness. In the end, I closed the old memories and looked at my little family with deep gratitude. Because after everything, I found peace, love, and a life that truly belongs to me.